All right, y'all. I don't know, like, the proper, like, copyright rules, but I'm at a local wine, spirits, and beverages store. And I'm going to go pick out a little six-pack, a sixer, as people say, I think, of some beers. And we can talk about these beers. This is part of the nice little video section of the blog. The video section of the podcast. So for best viewing options, you go hit us up on YouTube. But however, I am going to keep this very audio friendly for folks on the audio end. So here we go. All right, so a lot of places have this. It's like a pick a six. It's a really cool way to try new beers. I've got 6 beers here. I'm picking up my last one. But it's a really cool way to try new beers and see what you like. I'm a big hazy fan, so I got one of those. I got some Oktoberfest. 'Tis the season for Oktoberfest. I might end up making this last one an Athletic. If you are in the NA game and you have not tried Athletic, it is a great beer. I am going to grab, of course, the actual hazy Athletic. It is alcohol. Well, alcohol free. We can talk about that some other time. Non-alcoholic brew. And I really love the taste of beer. So sometimes I just want to have a beer and feel cool and indulge my life and not be drunk. Oh, here comes the dog. He just walks through the tripod, which is minorly terrifying if you have any sense of the cost of equipment in this kind of world. Hi, Bob. Hi. Welcome to episode 2 of How to Live Shitty with your host, Mel K. Dub. Ooh, I am really fucking cockeyed. We're going to leave it. I can edit it and post. Anyway. All right. We are here drinking the Upslope. This is bringing me back to Over a Beer. If you did not catch Over a Beer, I started that in 2019. It's really just me talking into a camera about random shit. So honestly, not that much different from what we're doing now. But yeah, this is reminding me of that. Okay, so we're drinking the Upslope Brewing Company. It's in Boulder. It's a hazy IPA. Hazy IPAs are one of my favorite beers of all time. We can talk about that some other time. If you're watching the video version of this podcast, this is one of the beers that I pick out at the unnamed beverage store, and we're going to try it out. So let's see how this goes. Sweet sound. Whew. Tastes like a Colorado River. It does. It's like a brisk, crisp beverage. What's funny is that it's got a green can. It tastes green. It just tastes like fresh as shit. Anyway, I remember the first time I had a drink of beer. And you know how like it was my dad. I remember being in this basement, which gives me a lot of feelings. Being in this basement, and he had, a Busch or a Budweiser or some kind of beer, and he opened it, and I was like, Dad, can I try it? I'm like 9. I don't think you can hotline people, 30 years later. I'm not 39, but it's okay if you are 39. However many years ago, I tried it, and I was like, ew, like this is so gross. I remember like, you just don't like it. You're a kid. Like that'd be weird. But I remember that. And then so as I aged to a legal degree, I drank a lot of Budweiser. I mean, this is St. Louis. So I drank a lot of Budweiser, Bud Light, Busch, big Busch girl, big Busch beer girl. And I always loved beer. Like our family we like beer. We like the casualness of beer. We like sitting around talking to each other and making jokes and, being ridiculous with our family members. And that's been a long-standing kind of family thing, which we could dive into the deep end there. But beer for me has always been a very fun, easy, relaxing thing. I always loved the idea of over a beer. That's kind of like where this original premise came from, was the idea of having these fun conversations with people over a beer, which makes the stakes feel really low. Like you're just shooting the shit. You're having a drink with a buddy and you're talking about crazy shit. And then like you wake up the next day and you're like, could we do that? Like, is that something we could really do? And that thought process really inspired me in these later years to think about a physical space, like a tap house. At this time, I don't want to brew beer, but a tap house where you could go have these conversations and be in a space with an energy of like that crazy thing that you were just talking to your friend about that you think is like just crazy because you're drinking beer and like having this conversation. What we want to become is the space where we actually help you do that thing. Like no matter what it is. I don't care if you want to like, you know, put on a race or you want to learn how to sew something. I don't, like, it could be anything. And I want to be the place that people want to go talk about crazy shit and then go do it. And then that's the action oriented part of this, because the physical space is important. Technically, we could create first drafts without the space, but the space is so important to me because of the energy. And we will go down this rabbit hole at some point, but energy is contagious, and energy is something that people can take from you. And a lot of this comes down to like boundaries, right? Like you can't expect to leave a person or a place feeling good if you while you're there feel like you're being sucked dry. I know that that's true for a lot of people with their work, which is why work is a big deal, and something that we'll talk about on the podcast quite a lot, because it just takes up so much of your life. You don't have to be obsessed with your work, but I do think that it's important that you're boundaried enough to make it something that doesn't leave you feeling like horrible. But the space itself, I want people to want to be there because of the energy that they get from the space. And if we were talking about a company, like the culture of a company really comes top down. And I genuinely believe that. And when corporations get so big, a lot of that gets lost because it's hard to manage, middle managers and what kind of energy they're bringing and things like that. When it comes to something as fun and light as like a bar or a brewery or a tap house, like I think there's so much opportunity to take the mask off from a digital sense, specifically of like, we have our shit together. Look how great my life is, and look how great, whatever is, and just be in a space together and talk about genuine problems that we have, and talk about and like wanting to learn new things and get out of your comfort zone with other people, knowing that like you're creating a vulnerability in that moment with people. And I think that kind of energy is really needed just overall, but especially now, with COVID and just like people not being able to be together in real life. I think we're in a deficit of human interaction and human experiences together. Like, I would love to see a day where, oh my God, I hope I don't get emotional at this. Because I'm not a very emotional person. So if you see me cry, this is like, not normal. I would love to see a day where the space is a place where people feel free, and they feel free to want to live the life that they really want and be the person that they really want to be. And if they want to go on a camping trip with people, like that's the place they would go and plan it and talk to me or talk to somebody else about the other people in the clubs that have done similar things and what did they have a good time, like being the hub or like base camp of human experiences and people learning about themselves and people learning about what they like and what they want to do with their lives, like to me is such like a beautiful honor. And that is why getting into the space is so important, because I can't do that digitally. I can't really give people this energy or create enough space where it gets bottled up there without the physical space. So the paradox of the physical space is that it costs a lot of money. And the whole premise of First Drafts is creating a space where it's like things feel low stakes, because they are in all reality. Like there's ways to make things feel like you're not, betting the farm on any one decision that you're making. At the same time, there are certain decisions that are more truly high stakes. And I'm genuinely putting all the eggs I have in this basket, and I want to do that. I don't have any question that that's the right decision for me, but it does feel big, and it feels sometimes like, can you do this? And can you, like, this is a lot of money. Last summer when we were originally funding, we were trying to fund $100,000. And in the grand scheme of things, is that a lot of money? No, when you're developing something, it's not. But when you're a normal human who doesn't have, access to funds that maybe other people would, it is a lot, especially after a really, really difficult 3 years that I didn't expect. So I want people to know that the physical space is coming. I've learned a lot in the last year, a lot, arguably too much, because there's so many roads that you can take in this process, and none of them are wrong, but they're like what's right for me and what's right to protect that energy that I want the space to be about. And sometimes it's trying to find a way to reverse engineer it and shortening the distance to the goal. And so this is something I actually want to talk about at length at some point, because it is something that has helped me a lot in maybe the last year or so, and I do this a lot when I'm running, is if me running 4 or 5 miles feels like a lot, what I do is shorten the distance in my brain. You just got to go 1 mile. You just got 1 mile ahead of you. And I'm like, oh, okay, I could do that. Like 10 minutes, not 5 minutes. I don't run 5-minute miles. 10 minutes. Okay. Like that's 10 minutes of my life. I'm okay. I can get through 10 minutes. 10's a lot different than 50. Right. And so what I've been working through now is we're rewriting the business plan to include things like food, which is really exciting. And to really get into the nitty gritty of what do we want to offer this first round, because we're not going to just come out guns blazing. I don't think that's a smart business decision to come out and be like, everything we ever want to offer, we're offering, because it's just not a good move. So we're reworking some of the business plan. And then my ideal goal would be to be looking for a space in the spring, which is not very far away, which is terrifying in a good way and also just terrifying. But I did want to address the space because, when people ask about First Drafts, the first question that they're normally asking is, when is it opening? Or do you have a spot? And the way that it works isn't like when you go buy a house. Like they don't just give you money and then you go find a house. Like there are steps, and you have to, have enough capital to get into a space. And then like maybe you'll get your business loan on the back end after you're in a space, because you have to make that financial plan specific to the space that you've already acquired. And then on the other end of that, hopefully get your liquor license. So there's a lot of moving pieces to this. it's certainly going to happen. It's just trying to wrap your head around the entire process. And again, right now, just trying to figure out how I can shorten the distance to the goal in the interim. So some of that looks like just getting more of the funding in place, and what I'm willing to put on a loan, what I'm willing to, I don't want to do investors. That's probably a longer conversation if an individual wanted to have that. But, sometimes with investors, even if they're silent, you're really beholden to explain the reasons that you're doing things to them. And I don't necessarily have the desire for that. And a lot of that just comes down to me knowing that I have to trust myself. And that can be hard to do sometimes. There are bigger decisions, and this is something I have to remind myself of, is that there are bigger decisions I've made that turned out great, that I made because I trusted myself. So what I would leave you with today is finding a way when the stakes feel high to trust yourself and shorten the distance to the goal. So whatever your goal is, whatever your dream is, how big or small, like me wanting to open a tap house or do anything like that seems crazy is not what I'm recommending to anybody. What might feel big to me might feel small to somebody else, or vice versa, where, this feels too big for other people. I'm still going through the same emotional hurdles and the same doubts and the same fears and the same just worry that anybody would go through, whatever felt big to them. So I would encourage you to think about what it means to, number one, reverse engineer. Here's where I got to go. And how can I, reverse those steps so I know where to start? Because I'm a vision, I'm way out there thinking normally. And then using those milestones as shortened distances to get to, and then just put your blinders on and go. This is way easier said than done, y'all. So if you need a couple beers with your old gal pal Mel, I could definitely organize something like that. No, but I hope that answers some questions about the physical space. I am so, again, I feel like I'm almost going to get emotional about it. Because when it opens is going to be is the end of the absolute hardest time of my life. And I don't want to say end, life is ever evolving and it's hard no matter what, but being able to be in that space and have people come in and drink a beer and talk to them about what they care about is the thing that keeps me going, and the thing that I can only dream about the things that come out of this space. So I'm very excited about it. It's terrifying, but I've never been more sure of something ever. So I did want to give this update because sometimes people are like, what is First Drafts? What's happened? And I totally get it. There's clubs, and it is a unique kind of combination of things. So, at the core, it will be a tap house. The neighborhoods that we originally were thinking about was Dogtown. All my friends in Dogtown, if you hear this, keep an eye out for spaces. That was originally why I had even gotten involved with some of the community there, because I wanted to get involved and figure out what was an option for the physical space. There's definitely some other areas, but that kind of neighborhoody, very dedicated to the community energy is something that we're aiming for. Not to say that it'll definitely have to be in Dogtown, but that kind of gives hopefully people an idea of the spice that we're looking for. I really hope that you'll come and have a beer sooner than later. If you are a commercial, person who understands commercial things and you want to chat with me, let me know. But otherwise, I'm just going to keep drinking this crisp ass beer. Again, this is the Upslope Brewing Company in Boulder, Colorado, the Hazy IPA. Whew. It's good. It's pretty, sometimes hazies I feel like come off a little bit. Sorry, that was one of my dogs, coughing. Oh, snow melt. All right. I guess that makes sense. But anyway, until next time, this is Mel K. Dub. Keep living shitty. I did it. That sounded pretty good. All right. I'll see you guys next week.